team like Kyrie and KD, or the Lake Show with King James and AD. Wish I could match him up with the bad boys from the 80s, but no black and white, I need that in HD. HenDawgz.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy and HenDawgz, and we back to it. You know how we do it. Another day, another Michael Jordan reaction video. Shout out to all the new subscribers, man. I appreciate every single one of y'all. Shout out to the people that's watching my video for the first time. Man, go ahead and hit that subscribe button real quick. Go ahead and like this video if you like this video, and write something in the comments. So for maybe like the last 2 weeks, I've dove like super far into Larry Bird. Like, I've been telling people before, like before I went to them videos, Larry Bird was probably top 15 on my list all time. Like, I just didn't know enough about him. But after them 2 weeks, man, he might be in my top 5, my top 3. I didn't realize that, you know, he was beating everybody, including Jordan. You know, and I kind of did my research on that. You know, it was like the early parts of Jordan's career, so I kind of gave him a little pass. Even though Jordan never lost to nobody else. We don't give him that excuse for nobody else. He beat everybody but Bird. But so what I really want y'all to do is, for all my Jordan heads, give me 5 good reasons why Michael Jordan is better than Larry Bird. So yeah, so for this video, we're about to continue the making the case videos. So if you rock with those making the case videos by Clayton Crowley, then you came to the right place, because I'm about to react to every single one of them for probably the next few months. So stay tuned. It's gonna be dope. I guarantee that you'll like it. I guarantee it. So we're gonna get into it. We're about to get into making the case Michael Jordan. So basically this is gonna make the case why Michael Jordan is the best player of all time. So go ahead and grab some popcorn. Go grab your snacks. This is like a 20-minute video, 25-minute video. So this is gonna be a little minute. So yeah, go grab your favorite snack. If it's, I don't know, what is it, Skittles, Reese's, popcorn, whatever it is, man. Go ahead and grab that, because you about to be in tune for a super great video. So making the case Michael Jordan. Let's get it.
Basketball is special. The size of the court and the lack of pads or helmets give fans the most intimate experience of a team sport that exists. And because of the different styles that basketball allows for, players develop their own distinct identities and signature styles through their creativity, flair, and athleticism.
Hey!
And although no player succeeds alone, the scoring volume and two-way nature of the sport give individual stars a nearly unprecedented amount of control over the flow and outcome of a game. For this reason, players are constantly compared to their peers and to the legends of the past in order to answer the most hotly contested question in the sport: who's the greatest to ever do it? For many, the question is redundant. They believe in only one.
I'll probably be doing Magic Johnson next. So if you're a Magic Johnson fan, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. And turn your post notifications on.
Their answer. Others might have their own personal stance, but acknowledge one or two alternatives. But I believe that there's much more nuance to the question of greatness and more answers to it than you might think. By my count, there are 8 players in NBA history that have a substantial claim as the GOAT. It's a subjective thing, though. I can't give you a definitive answer. All I can do is make the argument. So today, I'll be making the case for Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time.
Yes, Sirski. Let's get into it. Write in the comments right now, is Michael Jordan your GOAT? Why or why not? And if he's not, write in the comments on who your GOAT is, because I always say this: Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but Kobe is my GOAT.
Well, what can I say? What on earth can I say about Michael Jordan's case as the greatest basketball player to ever live that hasn't been said before? What do you think I'm going to talk about that didn't get covered in the 10-hour documentary that premiered at a time when there was no other sports content? There's no forgotten game that I can tell you about that shows just how good Jordan was. We've all seen those games. Every possible angle of the Michael Jordan case has been dissected inside and out. There are no original takes when it comes to the subject. Michael Jordan is a ubiquitous figure in large part because he was and is
Can somebody write in the definition of what ubiquitous mean? Ubiquitous, however he said that. I don't even know what that is, but put in the comments what that means.
A brand. And what do American advertisers love more than a good brand? The good people at McDonald's, Nike, Gatorade, and the NBA itself succeeded in making sure that damn near everyone in the world knew that Michael Jordan played in the NBA and that he was a winner. I mean, honestly, when you see the number 23 anywhere, don't you immediately think of Michael Jordan? I mean, even if you're a LeBron fan, you have to admit that that is Michael Jordan's number. And the craziest part about the Jordan experience is that as he became a global icon, he did nothing but continue to deliver the goods. What iconic moment can I show you that you haven't already seen 100 times? His cradle dunk in college, the game winner in the '82 NCAA championship, the free throw line dunk, pouring in a record 63 points against the '86 Celtics, the shot, his spectacular move, the shrug, the double nickel against the Knicks, the flu game, passing to Steve Kerr for championship number 5. These are sequences and moments burned into every basketball fan's consciousness. Every one of those moments served to propel Jordan higher and higher in the cultural zeitgeist until he was one of maybe the 5 most famous human beings on the planet. And yet, the inevitable passage of time has eroded the consensus around Jordan's GOAT status, especially with younger people who might not have been alive to see him play. That's not to say that there aren't young people who don't see him as the GOAT, but it's not as airtight as it once was. Now, I'd hate to speculate on behalf of an entire generation of basketball fans, but here I go anyway. I was 516 days old when Michael Jordan won his last championship. I can't remember much about it. And I think that people who didn't live through Jordan's prime are a little tired of hearing how great he was. Of course, people want to be alive to see greatness. They want to be able to say, I saw the best ever. Now, I don't think that makes it right, but it's part of the explanation. The other part is that Jordan's celebrity seems to cloud everything he did. At times, it feels almost like propaganda. How many times have you seen this? Some basketball account on Twitter or somewhere on the internet celebrates the anniversary of something that, say, Wilt Chamberlain did. And in the comments, somebody says something like, Wilt Chamberlain, the most dominant player I ever saw. And then someone comes back unfailingly and says, in all caps, did you never see Michael Jordan play? It's not just that you have to acknowledge Jordan as the GOAT. It's that you cannot talk about the merits of anyone else's case. The internet would have you believe that Michael Jordan won every game he played and made every shot he took. And that kind of talk breeds resentment from people who want to appreciate other players' accomplishments. Because he wasn't perfect. He
brings up a super great point. Because like growing up, I was always just told Michael Jordan is the GOAT because he went to the championship 6 times and won his 6th straight fight. He's 6-0 in the finals. That was like everybody's argument, but it's a good argument, but that doesn't mean that he didn't lose games he was supposed to win. He got swept by Larry Bird twice. And I'm not here, this is for Michael Jordan. This is to big up Michael Jordan. I'm not here to, talk bad about him. But I think we got to be real with ourselves and not, act like Michael Jordan was, perfect. And honestly, I think that's what's going to give you a better, clear space on, deciding if he's the GOAT or not. Because you can see what he didn't do well, what the games he lost, how did he come back for them, and how did his career shape out. So with me, I still got him as the GOAT, regardless of him losing in the first rounds to Boston and him losing to Detroit. Like, it didn't change my mind on that he was the GOAT. But I think you can't just say he's the GOAT because he went to the final 6 times and he won all 6 times, because you kind of just taking out everything else that he did and everything else that other people did.
Didn't win every game. He didn't make every shot. And you can have a debate about who the greatest of all time is.
Facts.
Clayton,
That's
what
all.
the heck, dude? I thought this was supposed to be a video about why he is the GOAT. It is. All of that is just to say that that's how this is going to go. I'm not going to try to convince you that he was perfect. Because if you can separate the legend and the basketball player, it's more than enough. Oh, and by the way, we're going to ignore his Wizards career as much as we can. It's just the right thing to do. So,
That's all I
Michael
remember.
Jordan, the basketball player. What do we have?
I was 6 when he retired.
In
for the
13
first time.
seasons with the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan was a 6-time champion, 6-time Finals MVP, 5-time regular season MVP,
Yeah, that's,
a 12-time All-Star, was selected to 10 first-team All-NBAs, made second-team All-NBA in his rookie season, was the Defensive Player of the Year in 1988, had 9 All-Defensive first-team selections, was a 10-time scoring leader, and in college won the 1982 NCAA championship.
He was a
and
winner for
named
sure.
The 1984 NCAA Player of the Year. Without a word of analysis or commentary, that resume is screaming about one of the most decorated and successful basketball players in history. Jordan's case is related to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's in that you can pick from just about any criteria you want to, and you'll find enough
Travel.
evidence to support his reputation. First and foremost, Jordan might well be the greatest scorer in basketball history.
Right.
Ignoring his 2 years with the Wizards, Jordan's scoring average was 31.5 points per game. Michael Jordan in a Bulls jersey scored more points on an average night than any other player ever. Including his Wizards tenure,
Oh my
he
God.
averaged 30.12 points per game. Still the highest of any player ever, beating out Wilt Chamberlain by a few decimal places. The style of Jordan's play was only matched by the substance of his game. Every ounce of athleticism that brought comparisons to Dr. J was matched by footwork that could only be seen in players like Hakeem Olajuwon. His acrobatic layups are underscored by his unerring technique
That's
and
crazy.
diligence that make him a case study in fundamentals.
See, I will say, like, without a doubt at all, he is the greatest scorer of all time, and he's the greatest athlete of all time. Like, them the two that I think that he's unmatched, man. Like, he's second to none.
His peak, he tortured guards in the post, eluded big men with his electric first step, developed into the best mid-range scorer of all time, and ran Phil Jackson's triangle for all it was worth.
Mid-range
He had
sniper.
nearly every offensive facet of the game in his toolbox, and he pulled out that toolbox every night.
Oh.
He has the highest usage rate of all time, scoring in volume
Yes.
on a nightly basis. But he also pushes advanced metrics and efficiency stats to their breaking points. He has the highest player efficiency ranking ever, the highest offensive box plus minus ever, the 5th most win shares, the most win shares per 48 minutes, an outstanding true shooting percentage, and so on. It is unfathomable to me
winner.
that Jordan combined such unprecedented volume with such pristine efficiency. His opponents were allowed little reprieve on the other end of the floor, as Jordan quickly developed into one of the league's premier defenders.
And a
In
defender.
1988, Jordan led the league in scoring with 35 points a game, won the MVP, and was named Defensive Player of the Year after leading the league in steals.
He averaged 35 points and led the NBA in steals. He got MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, bro. Like, that's crazy. Like, stuff like that is what makes him the GOAT. Not going 6 for 6 in the finals. Like, that's impressive within itself. Don't get me wrong. Every time he went, he won. But stuff like that is what makes him the GOAT to me, man.
Jordan defended opponents like a shark smelling blood. He forced bad
Shark.
passes, contested shots, leapt passing lanes, all while talking enough trash to sell a pay-per-view fight. There might not have ever been a more nightmarish matchup on both ends of the floor.
Give me that.
He could go into games, tell his own team to stay out of the way, dunk on his defender, and then put that guy in a straitjacket the second he crossed half court. And
That's
yet,
tough.
despite the ungodly amount of
Nightmare.
energy that he must have expended every night, Jordan was one of the most durable and consistent players of his generation. Aside from his injury-shortened 86 season and his mid-season comeback in 95, Jordan never missed more than 4 games in a single season. In 8 of
great.
his Chicago seasons, he played all 82 games. The objective of a basketball game is to score more points than your opponent, right? So you'd love a player who can score a buttload of points. You'd also love a player who keeps the other team from scoring points. When you put those two things together, the best scorer ever and one of the most tenacious defenders in history, you get Michael Jordan,
Yeah, Michael
whose
Jordan.
peak reaches into uncharted airspace. Michael Jordan, at his best, was better than everyone. Plain and simple. He would score, defend, and play in such a way that made winning second nature. No one else has ever tasted the air at the top of peak Jordan. Once he got to the top of that mountain, he was looking down at everyone else. But what about before then? I hear the skeptics among you ask. And that's a fair point. He wasn't always that guy. Before the Bulls broke through in 91, Jordan suffered defeat in the playoffs to the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, and most memorably, the Detroit Pistons. And I've seen this misconception that those losses all took place while Jordan was still basically on his own without Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen. And that's obviously not correct. All 4 of the Piston losses took place while Scottie was on the team. And in 1990, Phil Jackson was the coach, and the Bulls won 55 games, just 4 fewer than the Pistons. You can blame it on whatever. Injuries, the Pistons' patented Jordan rules, and even Jordan himself. It's a fair point of criticism to point out that Michael Jordan's Bulls lost in the playoffs early in his career. However, you can't stop the conversation there. Yeah, the Bulls got swept by the 86 Celtics, but come on. That team is pretty universally regarded as Bird's best team.
So go ahead, and I already reacted to making the case on this Boston Celtics 1986 team being the best team ever. So go ahead and check that out after we finish this video.
One of the best teams of all time after they went on to win the title. The fact that Jordan hung 63 on them, a record that 63 still stands, is outstanding.
I reacted to that game too.
The 87 Celtics also made the finals. So did the 88 Pistons, and the 89 Pistons, and the 1990 Pistons. Of Jordan's 6 pre-title playoff losses, 5 of them made the NBA Finals, and 3 of them ended up winning the whole thing. They're losses, nonetheless. But it wasn't like he was being beat by the Washington Generals. He was losing and sharpening his teeth against the best, for whatever it's worth. And it's worth something. Speaking of Phil and Scottie, another point of contention with Jordan's claim to the throne is the fact that he played for the most decorated coach in basketball and with the best sidekick in sports, along with a team that did their jobs to a T and bought into the team. As for Scottie, there are some people out there who would have you believe that Scottie Pippen was nothing more than a glorified role player. They'll say he didn't have the game to carry a team to a title, and he didn't have the aptitude to spend too much time in the spotlight. They'd have you believe that Scottie Pippen was nothing without Michael Jordan. And that's ridiculous. You can disagree with me, but for my money, Scottie Pippen is the best perimeter defender imaginable. He combined size with uncanny court vision a la Bird and LeBron, knew exactly when to pick his spots and when to defer, and brought a component of selflessness.
I got 2 questions for y'all. My first question is, what is your feeling behind Scottie Pippen? They said some people, was saying he was nothing but a glorified role player, and then other people were saying he's the greatest perimeter defender ever. So those are 2 completely different types of ways to describe Scottie Pippen. So how exactly do you feel about Scottie Pippen? What was your feeling on him? And then my second question is, which kind of ties into Scottie Pippen, but not really. It's a kind of separate question, but would you rather be underpaid or overrated, and why? Let me know in the comments.
And fraternity to the Bulls that might not have existed otherwise. He was approachable and likable, the counterbalance to Jordan's unyielding intensity. Most importantly, Scottie accepted and flourished in his role. The amount of credit that he deserves and does not get is unfortunate. Same with other players like Horace Grant and Tony Kukoc. Michael Jordan didn't win those championships alone, and those guys all deserve more recognition. When it comes to Phil Jackson, it's been fascinating to revisit Jordan's approach to the game and see how it changed under Jackson. Guys like Mike, Kobe, and Wilt all approached basketball in a similar way, in that they felt that the best chance their team had to win was for them to have the ball in their hands as much as possible. These days, we'd call what they did iso ball or hero ball. Isolate against the defender, tell everyone to get out of the way, and beat your man one-on-one. What?
That was something that I've been saying in the Larry Bird videos. Was I feel like, as far as superstars go, there's different type of superstars. There's categories for the superstars, and I would put LeBron in that category with Larry Bird, where they went out there, they wanted to get their team involved, like they was super underrated, great passers while being the superstar. And then there's players like Kobe and Michael Jordan, where, like he said, the ISO ball, I'm gonna cuss my teammates out. I'm gonna hold everybody accountable. I really it's a whole different type. You know, Larry Bird and LeBron, they was, nice to their teammates. They never really, really had that mindset that Jordan and Kobe had. And I think that's dope to know, because that shows you that it's a lot of different ways to be superstars or to be Hall of Fame players, let alone just superstars.
Watching Mike's early years, it sticks out painfully at times. Shooting over triple teams, refusing to give the ball up, even if a teammate had an open look. Kobe patterned his game after Jordan. Will was, of course, a prolific scorer and record setter in his own right, and did so in a manner that gained him the reputation of being selfish. But with Jackson's philosophical influences, the triangle offense, and a stellar supporting cast, Jordan learned to dial those tendencies back and perfect his game, resulting in one of the most dominant stretches any athlete has ever had in their sport. Of course, he still had the stuff to go and win his one-on-one battles, but he walked the line as well as anyone ever has. Kobe did the same thing. He won 3 championships with Shaq at the beginning of the decade of the aughts, and finished the decade with back-to-back championships. Now, who was Kobe's coach during those championship years? Who was it that helped him tailor his game to a more team-friendly approach so as to unlock the group's championship potential? Oh yeah, it was Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson should, and does, get praise for managing some of the most eclectic locker rooms in basketball, satiating some of the most headstrong egos in the world, and providing an environment where the most talked-about team with the most popular athlete could do their jobs. The Bulls' success might not have been what it was without Scottie Pippen. It might not have happened without Phil Jackson, and Horace Grant, and Tony Kukoc, and Steve Kerr, and Bill Cartwright, and all of those guys. Basketball is a team game after all.
Sure.
But it's our fault that they might not get talked about as much as they should. We are the people who talk about these kinds of things and create the dialogue that takes place about them. That doesn't somehow discredit what Jordan did for those teams or nullify what he contributed. Yeah, Scottie was a perfect sidekick. Yes, Phil Jackson was a masterful coach. Those things can still be true, and Michael Jordan can still be the greatest of all time. Scottie accepted his role on the team. He accepted that he was going to be the second guy. Jordan still had to go out there and do his job as the guy. He still had to set the tone of every practice and every game. He had to put the ball in the hole, share responsibilities guarding the other team's best player, take over when games started slipping out of hand, and, at the end of the game, take the last shot. It doesn't work unless Mike does what everyone expects him to, which is to be the best player in the world. As for Phil, yes, it is true that he tempered Michael's worst impulses. He helped sand off the rough edges and align the team. But Mike still had to accept that coaching. He had to adapt his game and do the work. Plus, isn't it a coach's job to coach? Why is it a knock on Jordan that his coach was good at his job? Michael Jordan doesn't deserve all of the credit for their success. But he does deserve the lion's share of credit because he shouldered the lion's share of responsibility of such an incredible team. How incredible of a team were they? Well, the 1996 Chicago Bulls finished the regular season 72-10. That's more wins than anyone had ever won, and a record that most people thought would never be broken. And not only were they such a prolific regular season team, but they capped off that season with a championship to deliver the most successful season that any NBA team has ever had. Which brings us to another common Jordan barb. The fact that the NBA was, at the time, looking to capitalize on its enormous popularity and expand into more media markets. From 1988 to 1995, the league saw 6 new teams enter the league, and with each new team, the talent pool of the league got a little more diluted and a little more diluted. As far as I'm concerned, this is a perfectly valid point to bring up when discussing whether or not 72 wins validates the 1996 Bulls as the best basketball team of all time. I don't think it disqualifies them.
So who y'all got as the greatest team of all time? Write in the comments right now. The 72-10 Bulls, the 73-9 Warriors, or that I don't remember the exact record, so I'm not even gonna try. But that 1986 Boston team, because a lot of people say that's the best team. But let me know what y'all think.
in the same way that I don't think that just taking 72 wins at face value automatically puts them at the top. But when people try to say that Michael Jordan played in a weak era or didn't face tough competition, it makes me want to pull my teeth out with pliers. We know who Jordan was losing to, so who is he beating once his reign began? John Starks, Charles Oakley, and Patrick Ewing on the New York Knicks, the Bad Boy Pistons, Magic Johnson.
My dad, to this day, I don't think he's that big of a Bulls fan, that big of a Michael Jordan fan, because he was such a New York Knicks fan. So I feel like back in the day, if you loved the Knicks, then you probably hate Michael Jordan.
Clyde Drexler, Dominique Wilkins, Charles Barkley, Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson, Tim Hardaway,
Stud.
Shaquille O'Neal,
Hall of
Penny
Famers.
Hardaway, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Chris Webber, John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Reggie Miller. Basically every relevant basketball player from the 1990s beside David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon. And no, I don't care to count up how many All-NBA opponents the Bulls saw versus someone else, or how many All-Star teammates Jordan had versus other players, or any of that. Because one, the players on that list all passed the smell test of a competitive era with flying colors. Two, I don't care about that stuff. And three, because, like I have said and will continue to say, everybody has advantages. Everybody. You become great by capitalizing on the moments when everything lines up for you. You seize the opportunity and press the advantage. So what if the Bulls were expected?
I like what he just said about that. What makes you the GOAT, what makes you great, is capitalizing off of your advantages. Everybody got advantages. Everybody got, ways that can get you over the top. But what makes you great is being able to capitalize and and use them to your advantage. That's good, Clayton. Happy you said that.
To win. They did win. And they were expected to win because Michael Jordan tipped the scales in their favor against everybody. And as a final objection, people who are looking to dethrone Jordan will tell you that he was an asshole to his teammates. That he alienated those who he didn't deem worthy or tough enough to play alongside him, and he refused to respect or trust them. And that is a fact. He was an asshole. He punched multiple teammates in the face, belittled his peers for mishandling passes, and spoke to his teammates in a way that would not fly in 2020. It's a fact.
And that's why I say, that's what Kobe did. Kobe did the same thing, going into practice, talking crazy to his teammates. Where I don't think LeBron and Larry Bird was doing it. I could be wrong. I know LeBron don't do it, but I don't think Larry Bird was doing it either. So am I right on that? What y'all think?
Fact that feels especially stark when you take into account the impact that more reserved and compassionate leaders like Tim Duncan and Bill Russell had on their teams. It is possible to win in the NBA without being a jerk, but it's also possible to win while being a jerk. And remember, Jordan wasn't lashing out for no reason. He wasn't walking into the gym just looking for an ego boost and to demean someone while he took the day off. He wanted his teammates to work as hard as he did. He had to make them understand that the Bulls could not be playing games because they wanted to win. They had to play as if they needed to win.
100.
Because psychologically, Jordan did. Take Tim Duncan and compare him to Michael Jordan. You never hear about Tim Duncan really tearing into some dude in front of the whole team at practice. You never hear about Mike not taking the opportunity to chew out a teammate that could have done something better. They are polar opposites when it comes to how they led, but they were both leaders, and both of their styles worked. In the same way that not everybody could play for the Spurs, not everybody could play for the Bulls. If you couldn't handle the team first, no one is above the group approach that the Spurs culture built, you weren't playing with Tim Duncan. And if you...
I think for this situation, it's a little bit different because I want to say, again, I could be wrong. It's just my observation. But I feel like Phil Jackson isn't really the cuss you out type. So Jordan kind of took that role. Kobe kind of took that role, because they knew Phil probably just release your ass if he ain't like you. I don't think Phil was really cussing people out. But on the other end, Tim Duncan, I feel like, is not really cussing you out. But Greg Popovich will cuss your ass out. I think, Greg Popovich kind of had that mindset that Jordan and Kobe had. Again, I could be wrong, but let me know what y'all think about that.
You couldn't handle getting called out, being pushed past your stress point, and playing without fear. You were not playing with Michael Jordan. They both shared a common vision of basketball perfection. They set a high standard and expected everyone around them to work as hard as they did at achieving that standard. If you didn't, you were out. So yeah, Michael wasn't nice. Not everyone could get along with him. If he had spent his years in the league making a villain out of himself and making enemies out of everyone else, toiling away in the postseason without ever breaking through, that would be one thing. But what he did worked. It produced results. And speaking of results, the guy won 6 effing rings. And he won all of them as the best player. I know that the people who want to discredit Jordan have already found a million ways to get around 6 rings, but I don't buy any of them. It is literally the best claim that any player has to the throne. He won more championships as the best player on the team than anyone but Bill Russell.
That's true.
But Jordan did it with more teams and more variables that could have set the team back. He checks all of the boxes. He had more success than Wilt, had more statistical prestige than Russell, had a higher peak than Bird or Magic, and leveraged that peak for more titles as the guy than Kareem. He was the ultimate closer. He lived for the moments that decide games. As an individual talent, he is an A+, as special as you can get, as well-rounded as anyone ever. As a team athlete, his place in the game is immortalized. Listen, it's impossible to watch Michael Jordan and not romanticize him. No object in the world looks more natural than a basketball in Michael Jordan's hand. It's like the ball was designed for him, or like he was made for the ball, or both. You can't appreciate Michael Jordan without hyperbole and superlatives. He is the avatar of sport. He is competition incarnate. His defining trait remains his insatiable need to win. He wanted to win at everything. When he came into the league, there were questions about his shooting and his defense. So he became a defensive player of the year and a mid-range marksman. He heard he couldn't win for years. So he took it all out on his competition and led his teams to 2 separate three-peats. He ironed out all of his flaws because he would accept no result but victory. So don't even start to tell me that he wouldn't have developed a three-point shot today. And more than anything,
I ain't gonna say it.
Sport is an art form, isn't it? It's expression. It's theater and it's storytelling. Part of sports is the excitement, the show. And Michael Jordan was the most dynamic show in the world during the end of the century.
He was a magician.
Part of it, too, is because the Jordan show wasn't terribly complicated.
There wasn't a lot of
baggage attached to the Michael Jordan experience. The things that he did made people believe, if only for a few moments, in superheroes. When spectators looked at him, hoping to find something to connect with, they found the indomitability of human will. The old sports cliche fully realized that the game is won by the team who wants it more. And we all like to think of ourselves like that we are wired like Jordan. But let's face it, we're not all like that. That's what made him special. There's only one Michael Jordan. As for the story, how's this? There's a guy who is knocking on the door of the Pantheon. He has been for a while now. He captures the imagination of everyone who has ever seen him play. He might well be the most talented player to ever lace up a pair of shoes, but he just can't seem to break through. He loses in the playoffs against the same team over and over and over. Every year, he gets a little bit closer and a little bit closer until finally he breaks through. His talent is justified with 1, 2, 3 championships, all in a row. It hadn't been done in 30 years. Now there's talk about how this guy might not just be the best talent, he might be the best ever. And as he's climbed the mountain, he has become the most famous athlete in the world. And then he retires, only to come back a year and a half later. In his first full year back from retirement, they win the title. He is back.
Good.
And then they do it again. By now, he is practically lapping every other player historically.
I think that's just so crazy. Yeah, he won 3 straight. He gets to the finals 3 straight times, win all 3. So at this point, you know, he can't be beaten. The only way to beat himself is to retire. And that's what he did. He retired. He just like, you know what? I don't even care about basketball no more. Like, I think his father passed, or, you know, I'm not really sure exactly why he retired, the real reason why he retired. If you know, write in the comments. But, yeah, he was able to just retire for a whole year and then come right back and, you know, win 3 straight. So, like, that shit right there, shit like that is what makes him the GOAT, man. It's crazy.
Every image of Michael Jordan in recent memory is of his team holding the trophy. By 1998, he had won 5 championships in 7 years, 3 in a row, and then back to back. And now it was the end, the last year of everyone's contracts. The team's blowing it up. This is their last ride, the last dance.
The last
They're
dance.
running on fumes, but they climb all the way back up the mountain to the top. They're back in the finals. The target on their backs has never been bigger. The pressure has never been heavier. In Game 6, on the road, looking to wrap up an unprecedented second three-peat in a game with more people watching than in any other game, it goes down to the wire. The Utah Jazz won't go away. Unfortunately for them, they're playing against Michael Jordan, who saved his best for last. Here is Michael
ain't sure
Jordan's
still?
final shot as a
All right, so I gotta explain that what led up to this because they didn't show it. Well, first he got a layup. They was down 3. He got the layup to make them go down 2. Make them go down 1. So the Utah Jazz came down and ran the exact same play that they ran prior, where I think Michael Jordan's man set a pick for Karl Malone, and Karl Malone come around and get the ball in the post and then go score. So Michael Jordan noticed it. He's like, bro, y'all just did the same thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna act like I'm going through with my player that I'm guarding, and I'm gonna just go right back and steal the ball from Karl Malone because I know who I want to get the ball to. And literally he did that. He went and grabbed the ball from Karl Malone, and then that's why we got right here. That's how he got the ball in this position.
Chicago Bull.
No push off, man. No push off. It is crazy, y'all. I'm editing right now. My last video, I asked that question, and a lot of y'all was like, "No way is that a push off." I had a few of y'all that said it was though. A few of y'all was like, "Yeah, it was a push off," but in that moment, the ref can't call it. That wasn't no damn push off, man. What's his name? Brian Russell. He just got caught slipping. That's all that was. But that was a dope video, man. Now, I'm happy that we got into that. We're going to continue to keep going into these making the case videos, kind of seeing the arguments for other players if they the GOAT or not. But this is the GOAT. This is the GOAT, man. This is who I think is the greatest player of all time. I don't know. I don't really have a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I had to put somebody 2, I would say Kobe, just because that's who my GOAT is. So that's just kind of how I feel about that. But let me know who y'all GOAT is. Write in the comments who y'all think the #1 GOAT is, or just matter of fact, just give me y'all top 5. I want to hear everybody's top 5 greatest players of all time. I would love to hear that. But I hope y'all enjoyed that video, man. We got way more Michael Jordan videos coming. We're about to go into more depth about a lot of stuff in his career, man. This is kind of where I'm going with the channel. As y'all can see, I apologize for all the people that kind of started watching our videos as the new videos that's going out. So like the reaction videos of the games from yesterday. Like I'm not doing as many as those anymore. I'm gonna focus more on like the history of basketball because this is what I feel like I'm starting to fall in love with. I never really seen none of this stuff, which is crazy because I've been playing basketball since I was 5 years old. So it's like, how did I not know that Larry Bird was one of the greatest passers of all time? Shit like that. Like, how did I not know all that? But I hope y'all enjoyed that video, man. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel if y'all want more videos like this. Make sure y'all like this video and write whatever you want in the comments. We out.